From claims of healings and visions to the world's most inexplicable events, whether you're a believer or a skeptic, the truth is always worth the hunt.
EWTN Radio presents The Miracle Hunter with Michael O'Neill.
Welcome to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. We have some great miracle-working saints in the history of our church. Perhaps Padre Pio comes to mind for the greatest modern miracle-working saint. Or we think of Blessed Solanus Casey from the United States, from the Detroit area. Or we think of, in Canada, St. Andre Bissette, the great miracle worker. Well, it was just his feast day this past week, and we will be joined by the Rector of the St. Joseph Oratory in Canada, and it's Father Claude Grou, talking to us about that great miracle worker, St. Andre. Later in the show, we're going to be talking with Danilo Moura Silva about Marian Shrines in virtual reality. He's got this technology, simulated reality, and a devotion portal, a platform that is immersive virtual reality spatial experience with sacred destinations all around the world. We look forward to talking to Danilo about his amazing project later in the show. And people can check out my show on EWTN. That's called They Might Be Saints every Wednesday. On January 15th at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, we have an episode about Mother Mary Teresa Dujic. I'll be investigating the canonization cause of Mother Mary Teresa Dujic, a Polish immigrant who founded her own order of nuns to care for the poor, elderly, and abandoned. And she's based in Chicago, and I'm a Chicago guy, so this is one of my favorite episodes, Mother Mary Teresa Dujic, coming up on Wednesday, January 15th. Also, look for Explore with the Miracle Hunter on Saturday, January 11th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. The most visited Marian shrine in the entire world is Our Lady of Guadalupe, that basilica in Mexico, and I'll be going there to investigate how the miraculous image emblazoned on St. Juan Diego's tilma has inspired millions of believers. And so that's Explore with the Miracle Hunter, January 11th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Later in the show, we're going to be looking at the Might Be Saint of the Day. For today, we have Blessed Ana Maria Janer Angaril from Spain, who lived from 1800 to 1865. Her feast day is today. And the 365 Days with Mary project, where we look at Marian devotions all around the world. For today, January 11th, we've got Our Lady of Vetrana from Castellana Grotte in Italy in the year 1691. And the question of the week, have you ever heard of a miraculous staircase? I'll do my best to answer that one later in the show. And the miracle of the day, the Stigmata of Venerable Anne Louise Lateau, is today's miracle. We'll look at that in just a bit. Let's take a look at the miracle news. We do this every week where we talk about miracles happening around the world and those things that relate to miracles. And sometimes there are big miracles and sometimes there are none. And this week this is more of, I guess it would be a miracle if anyone lived to this age, but the world's oldest woman in the world is now a nun. So I guess apparently recently Tomiko Ituka, she was a 116-year-old Japanese woman. She became the oldest living person this past year in August, and she died on December 29th, according to the Guinness Book of World Records. And her death was confirmed by them on Saturday. And the title of the world's oldest person now belongs to a nun, Ina Canabera Lucas, who is 116 years old, and she was born on June 8, 1908, in Rio Grande do Sul in Brazil. And she was born 2 weeks after the recently deceased Ituka. And amid her celebration in 2018, she received an apostolic blessing from Pope Francis, and Guinness said that she is among just 3 people still living who was born before the 1900s. And that is the miracle news for today. Maybe not a miracle exactly, but that's pretty remarkable. The world's oldest woman is now a nun. Let's take a look at Catholic Pub Trivia. We do this every week where we ask a trivia question and give out a prize for an emailer that writes in the fastest with the correct answer. And last week's question, we asked what $50 million shrine was opened that last year, honors a martyr. And that answer is, of course, Blessed Stanley Rother Shrine in Oklahoma City. And so a $50 million shrine was built to honor this slain missionary who was killed by 3 masked assassins who entered his rectory during Guatemala's Civil War. And so he is a blessed. With one miracle, he'll be a saint, but his shrine is the newest. And we'll hopefully do an episode of Hidden Gems about that at some point in the future. And in this show, we're going to be talking about the great Canadian saint, Saint Andre Bissette. And so we'll keep the question related to Canada. So the question is, what is the patron saint of Canada, or the Marian title, the patroness of Canada? If you think you know that answer and want to win the prize, the image of the faces of Mary, send me an email to questions@miraclehunter.com, and the fastest answer is going to win that prize. And answers and winners will be posted on the show page on miraclehunter.com. We need to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to be talking to Danilo Moura Silva about viewing Marian Shrines in virtual reality. We'll look at his simulated reality devotion portal in just a little bit. Stay with us for that.
Now, back to the Miracle Hunter on EWTN. Here's Michael O'Neill.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. People who know from my series Explore with the Miracle Hunter and from listening to this program that I travel all around the world, and I often bring my film crew with me to the shrines and sanctuaries around the world, places of miracles, trying to capture those places on film so that people who tune into EWTN are able to visit these places. Perhaps they're not able to, health-wise or time-wise or any other reason, to go to the places of miracles and shrines all around the world. But I think it's such a great thing to be able to bring those visuals, those images to people, no matter where they are. I've been introduced to a brand new project, this simulated reality project devotion portal that is sort of an immersive VR platform that allows people to travel to virtually sacred destinations all around the world and sort of experience them digitally as if they were there. And it's an absolutely amazing project that people can check out at simulatedreality.io. And I'm so excited to be joined by the founder of the project, and that's Danilo Moura Silva. Welcome to the program, Danilo.
Hey, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great to talk with you. And I think this is such a great service and project that you've created, this immersive virtual reality portal, you might say, to all these destinations around the world that so many people have heard about and read about, and perhaps they've been in their imaginations wondering what it might be to visit these great Marian shrines around the world. So thank you for creating this. Tell us a little bit how this project came to be.
I think the easiest way to explain is to tell a little bit about my story, right? I was born in the north of Brazil, where we have the largest Marian procession in the world, which is called Syrio de Nazareth. And I was growing up, I always heard about that we inherit, the religion from the Portuguese colonizers. And I always had the curiosity to go there, right? But through my, computer science, studies, I ended up going to São Paulo, which is, the major city in South America, where in there, the devotion is for Our Lady of Aparecida. And that got me a little bit confused, to be honest, because it was, Mary, the mother of Jesus, the Holy Mother. But the story was different. The face of Mary was different. The story was different. And I was a little bit thinking that could be a different saint. And, I was still like a teenager, so not really understanding how everything worked. And after a few years in São Paulo, I ended up being invited to work in Culver City in the Sony Pictures studios. And, I've been always close to religion. And here, the religion is for Our Lady of Guadalupe. And I got confused again. And I was like, oh, okay. There's a lot of different stories about Mary. There was always a curiosity that I had. And I was, after 7.5 years working at Sony Pictures, I first started working with virtual reality. And I thought it was a fantastic way to step into movies, to step into games, to feel really transported to other places around the world and, really feel immersed into stories. And that really drove me into wanting to give back to my church, right, to my community. And mentioning that to a friend of mine in a conference in Las Vegas, he said, "Hey, Danilo, I'm actually working on a documentary for Cyril de Nazareth, your hometown. Why don't you come with the virtual reality cameras and let's start producing something? Let's see what we can do by showing Cyril de Nazareth to the world." And then I thought that was a fantastic, idea. This started in 2016. And then I started documenting the Amazon origin of, the devotion to Cyril, Our Lady of Nazareth. And then I walked my way back to understand how it started in Portugal and back to the Holy Land, and working closer with the church in Brazil in 2022. They mentioned that they wanted to do an international Marian Congress, bringing leaders of Guadalupe, in Mexico, Lourdes in France, Aparecida in São Paulo, Fatima and Nazareth from Portugal. And then I said, wow, wouldn't it be great that if we could let anyone to experience a little bit of each one of those sanctuaries while at the Congress, right? And while visiting the museum in my hometown in Belém. And that's how really, the project became an international, right, worldwide Marian devotion project, which I'm super happy to be producing right now. The devotion portal platform is really, Michael, the goal is to allow anyone that wants to get into, visiting sacred destinations around the world. And I started mentioning this to other producers and other content creators. And I'm super happy that I met, Nimrod Shanid. He produced the Holy City VR, which is an amazing passport to learn more about Jerusalem. It's an award-winning journey made in virtual reality that takes you to the most sacred, locations and events that happen every year in Jerusalem. And then I thought, wow, that's really fantastic. And also through this, my goal always been working with religious projects. I also met Rodrigo from Panorama and Joe Breton from HTC Studios a few years ago, and they created a movie called 7 Miracles, which is a full-length movie that invites you to step into the presence of Jesus Christ and really witnesses the 7 miracles described in the Gospel of John in an entire new way. So you feel like that you're actually seeing Jesus, transforming water into wine, like right in front of your eyes. And we use all kinds of technologies to allow people to be transported, to those sacred destinations, those immersive documentaries, basically inspiring peace and also religious tolerance across the globe, because I feel like the more people know about, the sacred locations and where they came from, they start understanding better. And I feel like that's what I learned after going to all or at least right now to 7 Marian sanctuaries around the world. Like the more you know, the more you love and more compassion you have for one to another. And I think that's exactly what God looks on us, right? Like to have, a devotion to God and to have, religious tolerance across the globe is one of the missions of the project.
Amazing. We're talking today with Danilo Moura Silva about his Project Devotion Portal, simulated reality. Immersive virtual reality. You can visit these sacred destinations digitally, and it's an absolutely amazing contribution to the faith for people who can't visit these sites for one reason or another, or for just who want to compare the places around the world, check them all out. This is an amazing tool that's been brought to us by Danilo. Now, Danilo, tell us a little bit for people who want to find out more. I know Simulated Reality is the name of the platform, or Devotion Portal is the name of the platform. You can go to simulatedreality.io for more information. Tell us how people can actually connect to this project? I know this is freshly being launched. This is new in so many ways, but how can people either find out more or be able to experience this devotion portal in person?
Yes. So on simulatedreality.io, you will learn more about the company and all the different activities that we are doing to create tools for museums and tourism events. Like we're really working on taking exhibitions, like physical exhibitions across multiple cities. But if you want to access it from home, you can go to devotionportal.com, and over there you're going to see links to download across multiple platforms. One thing that I would like to add is that at devotionportal.com, you will learn more about the content that we have, and the biggest effort that we did was to not exclude anyone. And what I mean by that is we released on mobile phones and tablets as well. So you can grab your phone and move it left and move it right, or touch the screen up and down, left and right. And even on the volumetric scenes, the spatial computing scenes, to use like a more modern term, you can actually walk with your phone or tablet around like if you were on the virtual reality headset. For example, to see the miracles of Jesus from a different perspective, like if you were there. So even if you don't have a virtual reality headset, you will be able to explore. And also the other big thing that we did for Devotion Portal was to translate the content in 5 different languages. So you have all the content that I mentioned in English, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, and French. So the goal is to really allow the devotees from Lourdes to learn more about the other devotions. The same thing, in Spanish from the Guadalupe, Mexican friends to be able to learn about the other sanctuaries and be able to visit, like Jerusalem, also with a explanation in Spanish, right? So I think this effort of putting content together and removing the barriers of languages and removing the barriers of, people that can't travel for any reason, like we said, they can do it by visiting devotionportal.com and download to, their favorite device.
Wonderful. Well, we're so grateful to you, Danilo Moura Silva, for joining us to talk about your new project related to simulated reality called Devotion Portal. People can go and check out in immersive VR using new spatial technologies, these sacred destinations of the world, these beautiful Marian Shrines that they might not be able to get to in any other way, but your technology brings it right to their computer, their phone, their VR headset, all available. If people can go to devotionportal.com for more information and to find more about this project. Thank you, Danilo, so much for joining us on today's program.
Thank you, Michael. I just want to say it's a pleasure because I feel like we share a lot of that goal of bringing, the world to be more accessible to everyone. So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Danilo. God bless. We need to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to be looking at the question of the week. Stay with us for that.
Now, back to the Miracle Hunter on EWTN. Here's Michael O'Neill.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. Hey, I love getting your questions. People write in from around the world with questions about miracles happening in today's world and those that have happened centuries ago. And I love getting your questions. I like to see what people are thinking about, but I really like answering questions in person, and I do that every time I do a speaking engagement. So maybe 20 times a year, I travel all around the country to different Catholic parishes, shrines, or conferences, and I talk about miracles. Might be Marian apparitions, or these days, Eucharistic miracles is a popular topic. But people can connect with me on my website, miraclehunter.com. They just can click on the Contact tab and invite me that way, and hopefully I'll be speaking in a parish in your area sometime soon. And a question this week I got in person, actually. It wasn't through the usual email inbox way. The question was, have you ever heard of a miraculous staircase? and that was from Kurt in Chicago. And perhaps there are various miraculous staircases found in visions in the Old Testament and otherwise, and maybe other miraculous staircases somehow. But the staircase in Rome, of course, the Spanish Steps, is that miraculous? Maybe. But I think the question relates to the Loretto Chapel's miraculous staircase in New Mexico. And this is something that's been featured on Unsolved Mysteries and other television shows, and you can go online. And we've even done an episode or two on this show over the years related to that St. Joseph's staircase in the Loretto Chapel. Now, unfortunately, that chapel is no longer Catholic, but the story goes that when the nuns built that chapel, they built it in such a way, or they had it built in such a way, that they either forgot to do a staircase or didn't leave room for a staircase. Staircases sometimes can be quite wide, and the chapel ended, and there needed to be stairs up to the choir loft. Well, perhaps they prayed for a solution. Maybe they were out of money. Maybe they didn't know what to do. But in any case, a stranger appeared one night, a worker, a carpenter. He appeared, and he offered to build a staircase. And the story goes that he locked himself in the chapel overnight, and they came in the next morning, and there was this amazing spiral staircase that ascended all the way to the choir loft. And he disappeared without being paid, and the wood, they said, is not from the area. There's no metal or nails used to create the staircase. It's this incredible spiral staircase that's kind of works. The wood is sort of jammed together in a certain sort of a way that it doesn't require metal or nails. And so it's got a railing now, I believe, for safety. But anyway, it's kind of a unique design, and unknown how it was made or who made it. And so it's a little bit of a mystery. And of course, when we talk about carpenters, we always think of St. Joseph, the workman, being the one who did that. So the legend is, anyway, that this quote-unquote miraculous staircase, or the staircase without a lot of historical background, it was related to St. Joseph. So take it or leave it, whatever it might be. It may or may not be a miracle. And if you listen to the archives of this radio show, you can get sort of the background on what are the possible explanations for that miraculous staircase. But thanks so much, Kurt, for your question. If you have a question for the Miracle Hunter, you can send me an email to questions@miraclehunter.com, and maybe I'll be answering your question on the air next week. Let's take a look at the 365 Days with Mary project. We do this every week, where we look at the Marian devotion of the day as it lines up exactly to the day's date. And for today, we have Our Lady of Vetrana from Castellana Grotte in Italy in the year 1691. Castellana Grotte in Italy in the year 1691. And the feast day for that is today's date, January 11th. In Castellana, a small town located on the side of a basin in southeast of Murge, there was a small chapel with a miraculous fresco of the Mother of God, credited with freeing the region of the plague in the 17th century. Since then, she has been called the Vetrana. Since the end of the plague, the shrine has become a destination for faithful and pilgrims who continually come to venerate the sacred image, and the miracles of the Virgin of Vetrana obtained from her son are numerous throughout the ages. You can find more information about this title, Our Lady of Vetrana, if you go to the website 365dayswithmary.com. You can pick up the book, download the app from the iOS App Store, or you can connect to the Facebook page of 365 Days with Mary. Let's take a look at the miracle of the day. We do this every week, where we talk about a miracle that's happened at some point in Christian history that lines up exactly to the day's date. So the story for today in Belgium, at Bois d'Ahan, in Anne-Louise Leteau, she lived for 12 years without eating, drinking, sleeping, and that started on March 26, 1879. And she lived entirely on the Eucharist. On January 11th, today's date, 1868, she received the stigmata on her feet, hands, chest, and right shoulder, and she lived this way until the end of her life. On April 23, 1873, Pope Leo XIII made the following declaration regarding Anne-Louise's case. He said, "This event is an extraordinary one. You can affirm on my behalf that medical science will never be able to explain such a fact." And Anne-Louise died on August 25, 1883, at the age of 33. In 1991, the cause for her beatification was officially opened, and as Anne-Louise was a living witness to Christ's passion, we should also try to have our lives reflect Christ, and she was sustained solely by the Eucharist, and of course, that is an amazing, amazing thing. So that is today's miracle of the day. Let's take a look at sainthood news. We do this every week where we talk about people on the path to sainthood, and we're, of course, focused on they might be saints. We talk about from miracle workers to martyrs to those ordinary people living extraordinary lives of heroic virtue. These are the people that make us wonder if someday they might be saints. And, of course, we're talking about servants of God, venerables, and blesseds before they have all their miracles as recognized by Rome. And so this past month, on December 18th, the Holy Father Pope Francis received an audience. His Eminence Cardinal Marcello Semeraro, the prefect for the Dicastery for the Cause of Saints. And during this audience, the Supreme Pontiff authorized the Dicastery to promulgate a decree regarding the heroic virtues of servant of God Aaron Marton, the Bishop of Alba Giulia. And I pronounce that in a French kind of way, but I'm quite sure it's not pronounced that way. He was born on August 28th, 1896, in an area that's now Romania. And he died on September 29th, 1980, in Alba Giulia, in Romania. And according to the Dicastery for the Cause of Saints website, he was a bishop of Alba Giulia, and despite the many difficulties he encountered in his life, he never lost heart. He showed extraordinary trust in divine providence. He heroically exercised charity towards God and his neighbor, and he took care of the orphaned and abandoned children, prisoners, the elderly, and frequently visited sick priests. And during the First and Second World Wars, he devoted himself to the sick and wounded of all sides. And so that is Aaron Marton of Alba Giulia in Romania, and he is now a venerable. With one miracle, he will be a blessed. And let's take a look at the They Might Be Saint of the Day, or the Might Be Saint of the Day. For today's date, we've got Blessed Ana Maria Llaner Anglaril from Spain, who lived from 1800 to 1885. And her feast day is today, January 11th. And she was born on December 18th, 1800, in Severa Leonida in Spain. And she studied at the Real Colegio de Ecuanderas, and she worked as a nurse in the hospital there. She was the director of the House of Charity and cared for orphans, young people, and the elderly. She was a teacher, and she established a hospital for the poor. And she founded an Institute of Sisters of the Holy Family of Urgel on June 29th in 1859. And today, this same institute works in Spain, Andorra, Italy, Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, Chile, Colombia, and Mexico, and Peru, and Equatorial Guinea. And the sisters work in schools, hospitals, and nursing homes, missions, parishes, and other apostolates. And she died on January 11th, 1885, in Talarn, Leonida, in Spain. She was declared venerable by Pope Benedict XVI in a decree of heroic virtues in 2009, and also Pope Benedict declared her to be blessed on October 8th, 2011, 2 years later, by that same Pope Benedict. And that is Blessed Ana Maria Llaner Anglaril from Spain. With one more miracle, she will be declared Saint Ana Maria. And for people who want to check out the television series, They Might Be Saints, or you can pick up my book, They Might Be Saints, which is available at EWTNRC.com. I think it's my best book. It's about 24 venerables and blesseds from the United States. You might only know a few of them. But if you want to watch the show this week on Wednesday, January 15th at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, we have an episode on Mother Mary Teresa Dujic. And I investigate the canonization cause of Mother Mary Teresa. She was a Polish immigrant who founded her own order of nuns to care for the poor, elderly, and abandoned in Chicago. So check that one out on Wednesday, January 15th at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. We need to take a short break, but when we come back, we're going to be talking with Father Claude Grou, the rector of the St. Joseph Oratory in Canada, and talking about St. Andre Bissette. Stay with us for that.
Now, back to the Miracle Hunter on EWTN. Here's Michael O'Neill.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Miracle Hunter radio show on EWTN Radio. This is Michael O'Neill. I'm the Miracle Hunter. Well, we love talking about saints, miracle-working saints in particular. That's a great focus on this program especially. And there have been miracle-working saints for countries all over the world, but there's one close to home from Canada. and his name is St. Andre Bissette. And in the United States, his feast day is celebrated on January 6th, and in Canada, January 7th. So we're so honored today to welcome the rector of the St. Joseph Oratory, and that is Father Claude Grou. Welcome back to the program, Father Claude.
Thank you.
Well, it's a wonderful thing, and here in the United States, some people know about St. Andre Bissette, and he isn't too far away, being from Canada, our neighbor. But many people don't know the story of St. Andre. Tell us a little bit about what you can tell us about the man. Introduce us to St. Andre Bissette.
Certainly. Well, the story has something to do with United States because Andre Bissette was born in 1845 in the poor areas of Quebec province. And then when he was about 15, 16 years old, he went to work in the United States, in the northeast of United States. At that time, there were many people from French Canada who would go to work in the factories, as they called them, in the United States. And he was there for about 3 years. Then he came back to Canada. And then when he came back to Canada, he went to a place which is called Saint-Césaire, not far from his birthplace. And there he met the Brothers of Holy Cross, who were having school there. And after talking with his parish priest, he joined the congregation of Holy Cross. And 1870, he became a member of the congregation of Holy Cross. Then he was appointed at Collège Notre Dame. He had never been to school, so he was not a man to be a teacher. But then he was ready to do any work that was asked from him. And they asked him to be doorkeeper at Collège Notre Dame. And as a doorkeeper, he had all kinds of other odd jobs, like cleaning the corridors and do other things there at the school. But then as he was a doorkeeper, he met a lot of people. And people start talking about their problems, their difficulty. And Brother Andre would say, well, we'll pray St. Joseph together. And after he prayed with the people, many people discovered that through this prayer they were healed, or that their prayers were answered. So they had a lot of confidence in Brother Andre. And then he continued to do his work there for many, many years. And in the beginning of the 20th century, 1904, in fact, he started a small shrine in Montreal. It's called the Oratory. It's a misnomer for such a big place. An oratory normally is a small prayer place. That's precisely what it was when he started. Then it started to grow, and Brother Andre more and more was doing his healing with people. People come to ask for a prayer from him. And then Brother Andre kept saying, no, I'm not healing anybody. It is God who is healing. I'm praying with you, and we pray St. Joseph, and God does his work. And this reputation started growing. And today, this has become one of the biggest shrines in the world, and the biggest dedicated to St. Joseph.
Absolutely beautiful. We're talking today with Father Claude Grou about the St. Joseph Oratory and St. Andre Bissette, the founder of that. And talk to us. You mentioned that St. Andre would often welcome people to pray with them, pray to St. Joseph, I assume, right, and seek miracles. And he became known as a miracle worker. Talk a little bit about that reputation that grew throughout the United States, Canada, and beyond.
Yeah, the word the miracle worker was more used in the United States, and but then the fact is many people experience the healing power of God through the prayer of Brother Andre. Brother Andre kept saying, I've never healed anybody, but I pray to St. Joseph, and together we pray to the Lord, and the Lord does marvelous things for the people. So I would say he saw himself as an intercessor, as somebody who would pray with people, and this prayer would bring marvelous results to people. And so many people discovered that after praying that they were healed, so that many of these people would walk with crutches and then would bring back the crutches to say, Brother Andre, I don't need them anymore because I am healed. And then Brother Andre says, well, keep them as a remembrance of God, what God has done for you. And when you go to St. Joseph Rector, you have the votive chapel, where you have many of these crutches that are placed there. They were all things that were given back to Brother Andre as a sign of thanking him and thanking God for the healing they have experienced.
That's beautiful. Just like the places of healing all around the world, those mementos of the healing are often displayed in the chapels and the oratories there. And we've been talking today with Father Claude Grou about the St. Joseph Oratory. For those people, Father, who would like to visit and to experience the shrine for themselves, tell us a little bit about some of the features of the shrine, or what would people see when they experience it?
Well, just to walk around and see the main things of the shrines, they certainly need 1.5 hours at least just to have a first look, because there's in 1917 they built the crypt church, which basically is a large church. It's not technically a crypt because it is not under the basilica, because we are on the side of the mountain, but it's a beautiful chapel with a beautiful statue of St. Joseph. And what is very particular is that Brother Andre, from the time he came to the Oratory and from the time it was built till his death, he would go and pray in that crypt church. You always have the place where Brother Andre would stand and sit and pray. And this is one of the beautiful things to visit. Then next to it, you have the tomb of Brother Andre, and then you have this votive chapel with all the candles and with all the crutches that people have placed there. And then when you move on to the upper level, you have a place where you can have the heart of Brother Andre, which is kept there as kind of an important relic of Brother Andre, remembering this heart filled with love. And a lot of people would come and pray in front of the heart of Brother Andre. We have kind of a little place where people can pray there. And then at the same level, we have a little exhibit on the life of Brother Andre. And then when you go up to what we call the 6th level, this is the big basilica. Again, this is a huge basilica. We have place for more than 2,000 people in the basilica. That's where we have all the major celebration at Christmas, at Easter, and also for the Feast of St. Joseph on 19th of March. We have beautiful celebration there. So people can come and experience the place, experience the people praying in the place. I always say, you don't visit the Oratory as you visit a museum where they tell you how things were when this was working, because it's still a working place. It's still a place where people express their faith, and people who come there, they can have a great respect when they see people kneeling down and expressing their faith and praying there. Very often people who come just as tourists to see are struck by the faith we see there, and sometimes their hearts are touched also by the piety and the great devotion of so many visitors who are coming there.
Absolutely beautiful. And for people who want to find out more, is there a website or phone number or other way that people can find out more how to make a pilgrimage there?
Right. The website is easy to visit. The name of the website is simply Saint, S-A-I-N-T, Saint Tiret, and Joseph, stjoseph.org. So with this site, you can have a visit to the place. You can know a lot more about the place when you want to visit the place. And you also have all the details of how to reach the place.
Wonderful. stjoseph.org. And as we wrap up the interview today, Father Claude, talk about, for our modern world, how can St. Andre Bissette be a great example of us? And what is his message for us, even in today's world?
Well, there are many ways of looking at the message of St. Andre Bissette, but I like this year to make a link between the message of St. Andre Bissette and the Jubilee year. As you know, the title of the Jubilee year for the church is Pilgrims of Hope. And I think Brother Andre was a man who brought hope. People who came with all their worries, all their difficulties, their sickness, and would come to the place, and then they saw a man who was always filled with hope in God, and pray to St. Joseph, and God will help you. And he kept bringing this message to people, saying that God is good, God is loving, God cares for you. And this message of hope, I think, is always very important. I would say, especially in these days when we feel so many troubles, so many problems in the society around us, sometimes problems in our family, to have somebody who reminds us that there is always something to hope for, and that the love of God is always present in our life. I think this is a constant message that St. Joseph, Brother Andre brings to us, and I think it is more relevant to our world today.
Wonderful. Well, we're so grateful to you, Father Claude Grou, the rector of the St. Joseph Oratory, for telling us about the life of St. Andre Bissette in lieu of his feast day this week. Thank you so much for being on our program today.
Thank you.
God bless. That was Father Claude Grou from the St. Joseph Oratory in Canada, talking to us about the great miracle-working saint, St. Andre Bissette, in lieu of his feast day, January 6th in the United States, January 7th in Canada. And that's all the time we have for today's show. If you missed any of this episode or want to catch up on past episodes, you can go to EWTN.com/radio, check out the audio archives, or download the free EWTN app. I'd like to thank our guest today, Father Claude Grou from the St. Joseph Oratory in Canada, and also Danilo Moura Silva for talking to us about Marian Shrines in virtual reality. And I'd like to thank you for joining me today on Miracle Hunter, where from claims of healings and visions to the world's most inexplicable events, whether you're a believer or a skeptic, the truth is always worth the hunt. Talk to you next week.